Hi there, and welcome to my talk, DevSecOpsify your Nomad Deployments with the Nomad Admission Control Proxy and the Notary project. I'm Fröhlich. I work as a platform engineer at Serviceware, where I help our developers to bring the application to life in Nomad. Therefore, we usually run Docker containers in Nomad. And this Nomad DevOps cycle looks a little bit like this, oversimplified. The developers build a Docker image, they push it to a registry, they take the version they just pushed to the registry and write it into the Nomad job file, then they submit it to this Nomad server, and everything comes to life. But what could possibly go wrong, right? Like this DevOps approach where everybody's allowed to deploy and run their own Nomad jobs is great, but what's actually inside those images, right? I mean, did your team build those images? Did they find it on the internet and just submitted it? Maybe you've checked the bill of materials and all the contents of that image. That's great, but the problem is also that image tags are mutable. So even though you may have validated them, somebody else may overwrite them later. Looking at this problem with the mutable tags, that means like every time Nomad decides to create a new allocation, you bear the risk that actually the content of the image may change and therefore the behavior. One solution to mitigate that issue is and to have more reproducible deployments to use instead of tags, you use the digest of that image. So that means if you look at your Nomad job, then instead of referencing the image with a tag, you're referencing it with the digest. But how could you enforce that? Because people may use this or not, but at one point you want to enforce that. Therefore, it's good to look at the concept of an admission controller, which comes from Kubernetes, and it's a kind of a piece of code that intercepts requests before they're actually sent to the server, and then do validation or even mutation on those. I have a small side project called the Nomad Admission Controller, which is something similar for Nomad. It's a small application that sits in front of your Nomad server API, intercepts all the job-related requests like plan or run, then runs it through several configurable processors, and mutate and validates them. How does this work? Nomad jobs are usually written in HCL, but if you submit them actually in the server in the background, they're first parsed into JSON and then sent, which makes them as a perfect candidate for the Open Policy Agent, which is a small rule engine you can embed in your application to that checks JSON for certain things. And we can use that for validation purposes to either create warnings or errors, and also use it for even use it for mutation, where you can create JSON patches that then modify the job itself. For the purpose of this video, we can only focus on the validation so far for now. How does the validation work? In this case, for example, I'm going to produce errors that contain a list of errors that may contain the error forbidden image, which is added to the errors list for every task and every task group that has the image that is named Bitcoin miner, because we don't want to run Bitcoin miners in our cluster. So let's have a look at this demo. To get back to the problem of enforcing image digests, where we said we want to use, instead of tags, we want to use a digest. I prepared a small setup. I'm running a little Nomad cluster on my machine. And in front of the API, I'm running this my Nomad Admission Control Proxy. And in my cloud, there's already a Docker registry deployed where I'm going to push an image to, and then later on submit a job file, which then tries to run my image. So in that demo, I'm going to build a small Docker image. It's based off an Alpine image. And the only thing it does, it adds an entry point that says, "Hello, HashiTalk secure friends," and then takes a nap for 1 hour. So I'm going to build this image now. Great, it's built. And then I'm going to push it to my registry. Great, it was pushed. So let's now try to run this Docker image. So first we're going to say nomad run demo.nomad. Oh, and I got an error. Apparently the enforced digest rule kicked in. So, but you see, here's the SHA I could use. And I'm going to reference this one and see if it works now. Yep. Makes it a bit more unreadable, but on the other hand, it improves security. Okay, let's see if this one works. Nomad run. Oh, and apparently it is deploying. Yay, great. So let's see. Here we see our demo application running. If we click in and go to the recent allocation, we should see in this allocation the demo running logs. It says, "Hello, HashiTalk secure friends." Great. So, but how did this rule look like? So therefore, let me go back to the code. And I registered this digest rule here. And you could see it says like the list of errors contains an error message. And this error message is produced by checking for any image. Input means the job file, which has like a text for any tasks here, which has a driver of Docker, and then takes the image, checks if the regex matches this, which means like does the image is referenced with the digest. And if this is not the case, I'm going to produce the error message where I'm going to say invalid image, and that's the image. Great. So now we enforced image digests in our Nomad job files, and therefore they're hopefully more deterministic and give us less surprises while they're running. Reproducible deployments are nice. The question is still, should we run those images at all? And we want to run them, but usually we want to scan them for vulnerabilities first, or at least make sure we track the software bill of materials. So in case we detect vulnerabilities in the future, we directly can point to the images that are problematic and need to be taken care of. Therefore, we kind of want to also ensure that they're not only reproducible, but also kind of signed by a certain process that they're good to go. And therefore, the Notary project, aka Notation, is a project that allows you to sign images after you may have run some security checks on those and mark them that they are okay for deployment. Usually you do this somewhere in your pipeline in a dedicated step maybe. The Notary project describes this for the Kubernetes workflow like like here. The developers build and push the Docker images. Then Notary is used to sign those images. The signature is attached to the image and pushed to the registry. And in the deployment during the deployment phase, the Kubernetes admission controller verifies that signature, and if it's okay, the app is good for deployment. The cool thing is that the notation library is a Go library you can easily include in any kind of project you like, and especially the open policy agent is there a perfect candidate, as you can extend the functions that are available in the rules very easily. And these two technologies combined allow now the Nomad Admission Control Proxy to do image validation before Nomad jobs are deployed. And therefore, I want to give you a short demo of image signing and verification in Nomad. For this, let's head back to our last demo. And the very first thing we're actually going to do is stop the current running job, saying Nomad stop -purge demo. Great, so removed it again. And now I'm going to activate the second rule we defined. I go to my Nomad Admission Control configuration, and I'm going to enable another validator for that case, where I'm going to reference this notation rule. And now, if I'm going to try to, I'm going to restart my admission control proxy. And now, if I'm going to try to redeploy it again, come on, nomad run demo.nomad, I get an error. And apparently the image could not be verified. So how did this happen? If you look now at this second rule we just enabled, you can see it starts similar. We define a list of errors, and those contain a message which is defined down here, and it's defined when the Nomad job image has in it one of its task groups, a task with the driver's Docker, and then we're going to take the image from the config of the task, and we put it in our custom new built-in function called notation verify image. This will return true or false, either if the image is valid or not. And if it's not valid, we're going to produce this error message where we say task group and task image cannot be verified, which matches this error here we got when we tried to deploy it. Great, so it's time to sign our image. So I'm going to copy the image reference here, and this new terminal will act as my pipeline that does this signing. And for that, before I'm going to sign it, I want to first check if it's actually okay and there's no security vulnerabilities inside. So I'm going to use Gripe here. That's one of the tools that allow you to scan your image and see if there are any vulnerabilities in there. So it's scanning. Apparently it also found some issues, but it looks like they're all medium. So medium is fine for me, as long as there are no high or critical findings. So now I'm going to take notation and say, please sign me that Docker image, and it was successfully signed. So we have a signed image now. Let's try to rerun that part, and we see no error, and the image is being deployed. We can head already over maybe to the Nomad UI, and we can see here's the new version running, and if we look here, it says hello HashiCorp secure friends. Great. So now our Nomad jobs are more reproducible and secure, and we made sure by enforcing first digest that the image is always the same, and with the signing process of Notary, we made sure that only images that jump through certain security hoops are marked as okay for deployment, and no other image can sneak in our cluster. So thank you very much for listening to my talk about my little side project. Check it out under the GitHub link above. There's another video where I show also the capability to mutate Nomad jobs. Check out the YouTube link below. And thank you very much and enjoy the other talks.